We have two wonderful leaders with us today. Alex McNab, who is on the stage and mic'd up, is the Chief Operating Officer of Baird Footwear, a Melbourne-born brand known for stylish, podiatrist design shoes and a strong focus on sustainability. And Christelle Young, who'll be out here in a moment, no doubt, is the CEO of T2, who I'm sure you've all heard of too, one of Australia's most iconic retailers with a global footprint, delivering tea experiences delight customers worldwide, and you made us. So we heard a little bit from the previous panel just about peak, and Jay talked about being ready. So let's start with the big picture, and we'll start with Alex and then go to you, Christelle. So I know you have quite different peak seasons from what I understand. What does peak look like for your business, Alex? When do you start? When would you start planning for peak?
2 months out, we'll typically have a big all-hands meeting where every department sort of starts to think about what peak looks like individually for them. For e-commerce, that's, our site under traffic. How are we going to make sure it's still performant? How are we going to make sure that everyone visiting that site doesn't have any sort of degraded experience? Whereas for the warehouse, we'll get a true projection of how many orders they are likely to have going out their door, and that's a numbers game. How many people do we need to pick, pack and ship per day to make sure they get out in a timely fashion? Same for stores. We ship from all our stores, so we're trying to give them a projection of what we expect them to ship each day, and they have to balance that with the retail side because the stores stay open as well. So it's really knowing what to expect, increasing about 20% on that so that you don't fall short, and if you do go ahead of your target, and making sure everyone's really, really aligned with what their department needs to do in order for it to be successful and a great customer experience.
Sounds almost military-like, doesn't it, in terms of preparation?
It is a bit. There's a lot of to-do lists.
Yes. And Christelle, what about for you?
Yeah, so for us at T2, we're 61 stores across Australia, New Zealand and Singapore, and then our e-com store also. So for us, it's like our grand final, our peak season. 40% of our sales are actually in the 12 weeks around Christmas time. So it's all hands on deck. We start off already, we've started our weekly stand-ups, our peak stand-up. We call it Christmas, but it really is our peak stand-up. We've already started that kind of operations around how do we set up. There's a lot that goes into it, from in terms of setting up more staff in all of our stores. So we hire about 300 staff this time of year. We have to ramp up our distribution centre to be able to cope with the volumes that come in. So we have normally just a morning shift that we run from a BAU side of things, and then during this time of year we come into an afternoon shift too, so we need more staff there. Then in addition to that, so there's all the training that goes with all of that. So HR are absolutely pumped at the moment, getting all that training out. Thankfully to AI, it makes it a lot easier in this day and age. And then it's obviously getting these stores ramped up and ready, the managers ready, all of our products, visual merchandising, all of that operation and logistics side of things is really ramped up too in this side of things. So we have Christmas, we have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then there's Boxing Day. So there's also a big switch in stores from sale to Christmas to sale, which is quite a bit of an effort in and of itself. So there's a lot going on. We're starting planning for Christmas next year now in terms from a product point of view, but the operation side of things, we really start ramping up that already about a few weeks ago.
And Alex, and for you, I know peak is, well, that Christmas period is not the only time that you have major sale events. What are the other, because given the seasons for you, what are the other times of year when it gets really busy, and how do you manage those outside the core peak period?
The start of the season is always busy for us. We've got a really fantastic and loyal customer base, and they're usually hanging out to see what boots we've got at the start of winter, what sandals we've got at the start of summer. And Christmas is busier for our retail stores more than our online. Particularly, your cities where people go in, Melbourne always sees a spike around events, things like that. So they, again, are sort of little micro pieces that can really just ramp everything up for us. But yeah, peak for us sort of comes in shorter bursts than the longer form months that T2 have.
And we heard Jay talk a bit earlier about strategies for that peak period. Yours is much more of a gifting. Gifting is a real opportunity, whereas less so for shoes. So we'll start with you, Christelle. How do you sort of deal from a gifting perspective and the strategy in peak? We see massive discounts often, but spreading that out across the period and how you sort of position the offer in the market for peak?
So just going into e-com for a moment. So on average in e-com, we would have about 1,000 parcels a day, thereabout, that goes out from our distribution centre. In that Black Friday, we've seen it get up to almost 7,000 in that little weekend. So it's quite a big ramp up going from a team of people to deal with 1,000, it's times 7, going up to that little bit. So there's a few things that we're trying to look at and do. One is around how do we flatten that volatility? We've already seen a lot of the movement from sales in Boxing Day go into this Black Friday, Cyber Monday side of things. So we're also looking at how do we used to be just this little weekend, and now you see a lot of retailers actually go 2 weeks out and start their Black Friday sales early. I don't know if you remember last year going into the retail environment, the Friday before Black Friday, everyone had their Black Friday signs out already. So we're looking at strategic ideas and decisions around how do we flatten that a lot more and spread that volume out over numerous days, so people like AusPost also don't get that shock of 7,000, 14,000 parcels all on the one hit in one day, and we can move that over a number of days. But with that comes planning. So I couldn't reiterate more. I know that the teams earlier spoke also about planning and forecasting. I heard the LSKD example there. Even when it's not just even about planning and understanding the best forecast possible, but what if it goes bigger? What if it goes even better than we anticipated? What is our backup plan? So last year we had a whole stand-up called Plan B. What happens if we need to activate Plan B, and when do we need to activate Plan B? If we need more people in our DC, when do we make that call? What is that marker, that indicator that says we have to activate Plan B? Is it the volume indicator? And when do we make that call, and what is that volume we need to get to go, okay, we need to activate Plan B? So meticulous planning on top of that.
And for you, Alex, so how do you try to spread it out over the period as well? So given different product, different proposition.
Yeah, it's a very similar thing. Planning, have a contingency plan for every process. We've had our share of horror stories over the years with both internal issues and third-party issues, and having a ready-made plan that everybody knows what they can shift to in the event that something goes wrong, and knowing what their plan B is, how they're going to execute that, so that there's minimal stress on the team and things can continue to deliver for the customer. That's really key. I'm a huge contingency planner, and I think everybody in Baird is, and that really works to our benefit. But yeah, flattening the peak is key.
And you talked about the number of people you need to bring on board. How easy with the low unemployment rate is it to attract team members to join for peak? For both of us, start perhaps with you, Christelle.
Thankfully, we work in an amazing brand, and I hope everyone here knows T2. It's a very loved brand, so we're lucky in that respect, and it's tea, it's a beautiful category. We are a B Corp organisation, and so that in and of itself, we're lucky that it attracts great talent. But having said that, it has been a little bit more challenging than usual because retail crime is a bit of an issue at the moment from a retail side of things. In other areas, it's not too bad. Having said that, we have to obviously do quite a bit of training across it. So we have to we spoke a little bit about AI. We've now got some AI agents in place to really help both in that recruitment process, but also in the learning and development and training all of our retail team. And we're soon to go live with a little agent, a retail team agent, to help the teams navigate all the policies, procedures, and even stock queries.
Like a co-pilot, so like a buddy.
Like a buddy. But that buddy can tell me what's in transit to QVB. I just had a look this morning. What is in transit to QVB? How much of that is out of stock? So what value of our out of stocks are we currently missing? What do I do with all those pieces that are in transit and out of stock? What, as a team member, it recommends, if I'm out of stock Melbourne breakfast, you should be recommending this tea instead. It's very like and similar, and a little bit of an action plan of what for them to do too. So it's quite a smart little agent too.
And what about for you, Alex, in terms of getting team members in? How easy do you find that?
We sort of set our sale dates a long way in advance, and we let our team from full-timers down to casuals know that there's going to be a lot of work that week. It's a blackout period for leave, it's a all hands on deck scenario for the 2 weeks that we are on sale. And we also we've got a couple of labour labour hire agencies that we pull in, particularly for our warehouse. And then we have a really great network of family and friends. So, I think at one time or another, all my sisters have picked and packed post to send out to Baird. And that's quite common across the company, that someone's brother will come and help, or, someone's sister will be there on the weekend, or the couple of cousins will come in and ship the Saturday, Sunday. So we've got a really good relationship with people, and we try and make it a bit fun. There's pizzas, there's food, there's great music. So it can be a little bit of a break for a store team member who, is in the retail sphere all the time. They'll come out to the warehouse and they'll be like, oh, this is different. This doesn't feel as much like work, because it's a change of pace for them. So we're really lucky in the sense that, we can usually call on people to help us ramp up.
We actually have our one team, we call it one team shifts, and get up to 1,000 people helping across the network. So it's a great way to support those in the field from our support office here in Melbourne and in Sydney. So actionable tips. I know we said planning way ahead, and we're not that far away from peak now, but any sort of actionable, for those watching today or in the room, any actionable tips for some of the people watching today, for specifically for peak?
Okay, so I did speak about the planning and the planning and a plan B. But on top of that too is also communicating that plan and coordinating with your partners too. And since we're AusPost, a good example is AusPost, and obviously anticipating our volumes and letting you guys know. And we have a great account manager that we work quite closely with to be able to coordinate that. Not only just coordinating what our volumes are and having you guys prepared, because you are, as you mentioned earlier, an extension of our brand. So we want to help set our partners up to succeed just as much, because it is an extension of us. If you guys are late, our customer care gets slammed and they think it's us. So that side of things, but even into our retail stores, for example, in our Queen Victoria building store, on average we get about 90 boxes dropped at the moment. We deliver 3 times a week and it's about 90 boxes. In peak time, it's 100 boxes a day, thereabouts. It's a lot of boxes of stock that gets flipped. That store basically gets completely flipped in an entire week. So ensuring that we have the right communication. You've got a hub there. Australia Post has a hub that knows when to deliver into the store. We don't want 100 boxes being dropped at 12 p.m. in the peak of the day too. We want to make sure it's a really safe environment for everyone. So ensuring that we communicate with our partners is really important too, equally, whether it's our technology platforms, whether it's our DC agencies that we use there, etc., so that they can also anticipate what we're anticipating. That's probably the other part that I would add.
And Alex?
I would echo that, particularly on the tech side of things, knowing who you can call on if there's a problem, and them being aware of what peak looks like specifically for you. Saying we're going to be busier. Is that twice as busy? Is that 10 times as busy? What does that actually mean for them, and how they need to alter their service for your business to make sure that, there's no negative impact on you, because all your third-party vendors are part of your customer's experience. And if you want to control that experience and make it a really fantastic one, you do need to have a lock on what other areas and what other vendors are contributing towards that. And we view peak as a real opportunity. Like, it's a great opportunity for our existing customers to, get some more of our shoes, and for new customers. But it does mean that you can't have a great variation between the service level that you give in non-peak time and the service level that you give in peak. If you've got a regular customer who buys shoes on a Tuesday and receives them on a Friday or a Thursday, they expect that same level of service, maybe given a day or two's grace, but you can't have one mode for sale and one mode for regular time. You need to project your volume well in advance, and you need to scale for that. You can't have a degraded experience for your customer. And so putting your customer at the centre of your decision making and the centre of your planning, and is that going to make this great for them? Is the first time customer going to want to come back after this experience? Is my ongoing customer going to be like, oh, I'm going to avoid shopping in sale because that was just a nightmare and I had to wait 2 weeks? You can't have that. So everything you do has to be done with the customer at the centre and giving them the right communication, the right experience and the right product.
There's no question we always sort of monitor post-peak any churn, and we know that a great experience over peak our customers stay with us, and I suspect as an extension of your brand, that's critical, as you say, that the service performance holds up as much as it's under pressure for that very short period.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and you can plan for it. You know what your peak is going to look like, then add 25% just in case. But yeah, just thinking about what their experience is going to be and making sure that you're executing a really great one for them is absolutely key.
Now, I could keep asking questions, but I know we want to go to live questions. So thank you, Alex and Christelle, for sharing your insights. It's inspiring to see how retailers of all sizes and very different businesses sort of can rise to the challenge of peak. And it sounds like it's about lots of planning, plan B or contingency planning, focusing on customers and strong partnerships. So hopefully everyone got something out of that, and wishing you both a very successful peak season ahead. Now, I'd like to invite Jay and Adelaide back to the stage for our live Q&A segment. And you still have time to submit your questions via Slido. So please, any questions you have for Jay, Adelaide, Alex or Christelle, get them onto Slido and we'll go to questions in a moment.
All right. Time out. Hit the parcel locker room.
These make first-time delivery a breeze and increase shopper satisfaction.